Welcome to the Health and Wealth Power Hour, the podcast that provides you with the knowledge and insights you need to achieve physical, mental, and financial well-being. I'm your host, Harlan Pickett, a business consultant who's passionate about helping people achieve a more balanced and healthier life. Each week, we'll deep dive into topics related to health and wealth, including retirement income planning, innovative healthcare solutions, alternative funded health plans, and specific actions individuals and business owners can take to gain control of their finances, have access to affordable quality health care, and achieve peace of mind. We'll also be joined by innovative experts who will share their knowledge and insights on prevalent topics. So, whether you're looking to grow your wealth or improve your health, you've come to the right place. Get ready to be informed, inspired, and empowered. Let's get started. Well, guess what time it is? It is time for another exciting episode of the Health and Wealth Power Hour. I am your host, Harlan Pickett. Great to have you with us today. Being different, guess what? Can be really cool, right? You know what? Being different is actually always cool. But sometimes you don't get the notoriety in being different that you deserve, especially if being different makes you better at what you're doing. But we're going to talk to somebody today whose whole goal is to help you understand that being different and having a different product and having a different business that really turns things on its head can help you really stand out from the crowd and become extremely successful. But there's a process to that. It's not just show up and be different and everyone says, oh, look, a unicorn. How lovely. No, there's people out there that don't like unicorns, especially the people that already have horses, because they don't want that unicorn messing with their horses that they always have. So we are very, very blessed to have Barry LaBov with us today. Barry has an awesome book coming out we'll talk about. He's going to start his own podcast. He's been in the industry, the ad and industry for a long time. Barry, thank you for being with us. Man, I'll tell you what, I'm so excited to talk to you today because we do things different over at Eagle Care. And man, I just can't wait to absorb some of this knowledge.
Hey, Harlan, I'm a big fan. I've strapped in. I got my seatbelt in because I know I have no idea where this is going to go. And I'm excited about it.
Yeah, well, that's part of it, is not knowing where we're going, because you know what? So think about what you just said. When you decide you're going to do something different, you don't know where it's going to go. You really don't. You have these great, grandiose plans. That's why you've done whatever it is I'm going to turn this fill in the blank industry on its head. But then a lot of times you just kind of run out of steam and you feel like you're beating your head against the wall because maybe you didn't realize what a difficult task it was going to be to get people to understand even what you're doing. So talk a little bit about that and some of the success stories you've seen where people have turned that around.
I think one thing we have to realize today that there's a really intense pressure to commoditize. So many things we look at on TV or on the web, they're all comparing themselves to each other. There's a pressure for whoever is out there, and you have a product or a service, and you're supposed to be like somebody else. You're supposed to price it like somebody else. You have to have all the promises to do all the things that somebody else says they do. What I look at and work with our clients on is to say, okay, I get all that, but what are you at your core? What makes you unique? And that may not even be better. It just means you're unique. You know, like in your business, Harlan, let's say somebody offers exactly what you do, but somebody goes, but I just have this good feeling with Harlan. I trust him. He's a guy that I can turn to. Now, that doesn't mean your end product is better, but right. There's a distinctiveness. There's something that person is drawn to. And like you said, it's not that everybody then will be drawn to you. It's that a certain type of customer finds that exciting. So what I do at my company, and I love it, is my team looks for magic in our clients' products or services. We look for the magic, we identify it, and you might say, well, why would you identify it? It's because people are too close to what they do to see what makes them special. So we identify that magic, and it gets really exciting past this point too. After we identify it, we'll name it. We'll say, oh, it's blank. It's whatever we call this, okay? So we don't just say, well, it's just me being me. It's, no, here's what this is. And then we launch this. We start to communicate it, but the first step in that, Harlan, is the coolest, most exciting thing, and that is you share that uniqueness and distinctiveness with the most important people in the world, your employees, and the people who support you. Could be family, could be suppliers, could be your distribution. You celebrate it with them so that they know that, hey, wait a minute, there's actually a reason we do what we do and we offer what we offer. And I'm proud of it. And what happens is whether you have 2 employees or 25,000, you create an army of believers and you give significance to those people. They all of a sudden understand, okay, we're doing something kind of cool and I am part of it. I actually have a job that has some meaning to it. So it's very exciting. You basically discover what makes you unique and you celebrate it with the most important people first.
And that's very powerful. I'm going to throw in a little story here, and I think you're going to really appreciate this. My son graduated from college. He graduated animal science and wildlife management. He wanted to be a game ranch, work at a game ranch somewhere. But where he ended up living in the town he went to college in, there's not a lot of that. There is over in the hill country where we live at, but not where he was at. So he got offers, but nothing that really rocked his world, right? I mean, they didn't want to pay him what he felt like he was worth. So he decided to come to work for us. The problem with that is he was not bought into what we're doing, right? I mean, that's not what he even went to school for. That's not what he wanted to do. So he just kind of trudged along. But what we didn't do is we didn't sell him on what we were doing, right? We just felt like you should buy osmosis, right? You should know what we do. And yes, he understood a little bit about what we did, but he didn't really understand the value propositions and the things that made us unique. And so for his first year, it was really a difficult time for him. I mean, he really wasn't bought in. As we found out later, he was constantly looking for other jobs because he wasn't really happy with where he was at. But we had a time period where we really were focusing on a lot of the things, not just teaching our staff, but teaching some of our sales force, external sales force that, don't actually work with us, but sell our products. And as he went through that, he got it. And all of a sudden, when he got it, there hasn't been a bigger supporter or shouting from the heavens about what we do and how we can help folks than my son. And to see that transformation has been incredible. But I think it points out what we missed is we didn't do that grassroots thing you're talking about. We're getting those people closest to us really bought into what we do because of focusing on what makes us unique, what makes us different.
Yeah, and I think we as business owners and leaders, we assume everybody gets it, and we're completely wrong. We're 100% wrong.
Yeah.
And it's up to us, not just once a year in the big annual meeting, but every day and in every opportunity to have an interaction, to share what we're doing and why, and the important role that you play in this. Because right now, think about how many people are unhappy in their jobs. Supposedly, it's most people are, okay?
It is, yeah.
And you can work for almost any company from almost anywhere now for almost any amount of hours you feel like working. So now it's like you can go anywhere. It's more important than ever that we have our employees, whether they're brand new or been with us for 40 years, really in line and in lockstep with what we're doing and really digging into it and explaining the role that that individual is performing makes a difference. I work with a wonderful ambulance company, and I was on the line of one of their factories. And there was a young man, and I said, "Hey, what do you do here?" And he said, "I plug in wire harnesses." I said, "Okay." I said, what else? He said, I tighten bolts once in a while, but I'm going to leave. I'm going to go down the street for 25 cents more an hour and work at a marshmallow factory. I went, whoa, marshmallow factory. Okay. I said, hey, question for you. How long do these ambulances last? You know, you got about 40 of them on the line going down. He goes, oh, they last about 10 years. I said, yeah. And I said, what I understand is that over that 10-year period, about 100,000 people are protected or saved while in that ambulance, because you have the driver and you have at least 2 technicians. And then on top of that, you have the patient and sometimes the patient's family. And he stopped for a moment and he said, well, I didn't think I was in the life-saving business. I thought I was in the wire harness business. I said, maybe you're in the life-saving business. And Harlan, this is a story I love to tell because it's so impactful. It's not just that made him feel better. I bet that this young man stayed there for a long time and is probably still there. I also bet that he made sure he plugged those wire harnesses in good. I also bet that he made sure that when that ambulance got to his station, it was in perfect working order, or he would stop it and say something like, hey, people, this is about saving lives. This has to be better. When we do that, think about that. Retention of employees goes up. Quality goes up. Ultimately, our customers are happier because, wow, we've got this product that's really fantastic. We owe it to our people to do this. And if we don't care about people and we're mercenaries, then all I say to you is, okay, just use logic and identify the fact that you have to do this to hold on to employees and have customer growth. So that's, to me, that's such a beautiful part of what we're doing. We're identifying, not creating this differentiation. We're identifying, we're discovering what makes you unique. And then what we're doing is we're celebrating it. And it's, to me, it's an entirely positive, natural, authentic experience.
So what happens in a situation where so someone brings you in and let's just say there's some type of assembly line. They're just like every other assembly line in their minds, right? They want to have something different, but they have no idea what that's going to be at this point. They are like, well, I don't know. We're ABC ambulance and right down the street is XYZ ambulance. As far as I know, we're building the same ambulance. Both of them last 10 years. I think ours come out as red and theirs comes out as white. But other than that, I don't think there's anything different. Is that what we're going to do, is talk about how red ones are better?
Well, that's really great. That's a good challenge. And that's what the challenge we had was. And no, it wasn't the color of the ambulance. So as an example, one of the ambulance brands we work with has an amazing light system inside their truck, so to speak, their ambulance. It's so bright that it's like an ER, an emergency room experience, so that the technician, the EMT, is able to assist and take care of the patient in a very, very bright atmosphere. Now, you may go, well, who cares about it? No, that's incredibly important. Okay, so that's one thing. Another ambulance that we work with, that's a sister company, has soundproofing in their walls. It's insane, the amount of effort they go into soundproofing those walls so that the patient can hear the EMT better. The EMT can attend to the instruments. So all of a sudden you start talking about these little things, but they all make a big difference. And in my opinion is, if I am looking at ambulances and one's red and one's green, but the red one has soundproofing in it, and they tell me why they have soundproofing, which is to benefit the patient and the EMT, I'm thinking, you know what, if they go to that length for soundproofing, I bet you they're taking care of other things too. I'll go with that.
Yeah, but I think the problem that all of us have is, even when we do something different, it's almost impossible nowadays to find somebody who doesn't do something like you do or what you do in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not exactly, but I think we get lost in that sometimes as business owners. as what we should really choose to set us apart. Maybe there's a number of things that set us apart, but we still have to focus on certain things, right? I mean, is that accurate or is it not? Do you focus on a number of things that set you apart, or should you focus more? Should it be narrower and focus on things that really matter? Soundproofing for an ambulance, to me, that's something that really matters. Maybe the wire bracket guy has invented a new wire bracket that makes it even better, but does that matter as much as the soundproofing, and would you even focus on that?
Well, that's a great question. We focus on no more than 5 differentiators per brand, because otherwise, not only is it too much for the customer, it's too much for the person explaining it. They're going to go, oh my gosh, my head's going to explode. So we focus on very few. One thing I really want to stress to the audience is your differentiation does not have to mean you're superior. It means you're different. So one really wonderful brand I have been fortunate to work with is Harley Davidson. And the people at Harley will tell you that they do not say their product is superior in every way. They don't. But boy, is that product unique. Is it distinct? Does it have a beauty? Does it have a sound to it? My gosh. And doesn't it offer a community of people who are amazing, who want to ride with you? And it could be some attorney who's got, 2 or 3 motorcycles. It could be some farmer that's got them, but they're a community of people. So Harley Davidson will not say we are the superior bike to BMW and Kawasaki. What they say is we are the brand that offers you community and freedom. That's what I think is powerful, because for some of us, that means a lot. And then there are others who go, well, I don't care. I don't care about freedom. I don't care about community. I don't care about the chrome. I don't care about the sound. I don't care about any of it. Okay, well, that's not the person we want on a Harley Davidson.
Yeah. I think that's a great example, because then go buy the BMW. If you're just comparing them, right? But you don't care about, I don't want to ride with anybody else but myself.
Right.
And that thing's too loud. It hurts my ears. Well, don't get it.
Right. Right. And if they tried, this is why Harley's such a genius and iconic brand. If they tried to be Kawasaki or Suzuki, they would lose all the people who love them, because all of a sudden they're not that rebel brand that's really cool. They're all of a sudden a lookalike. And that's why there's genius behind Harley Davidson that is amazing. And I have nothing to do with it. I have just been fortunate to work with them. They were phenomenal when they started working with us. So I take no credit for it. I'm just one of the lucky people who have joined them on the journey. But they are a tremendous company. But they realize they're not superior, but they are who they are. And if you like that, let's ride.
So let's talk about the opposite of that, because I also believe we see companies out there that maybe do something a little bit different, but when they instead of continuing down that path and accentuating their differences, they change models and become more like even a competitor to keep up with the Joneses, as it were. So talk a little bit about that, and what's some of the some of the bad things that can happen when you go down that pathway.
It's very easy to be homogenized in your product offering, and all of a sudden you kind of offer what everybody else does, and it's kind of the same as the guy down the street, and all of a sudden you're losing some sales and you don't understand. I'll share an example. I worked with an Amish RV company. Now, everybody thinks when I say that I'm about to tell a joke. No, they are an Amish run and founded RV company. And they had a very unique approach to their RVs. And it was, they would allow you, the customer, Harlan, to do virtually anything you want with that unit. You could have 3 couches in there. You could move the sink over here. You could have a slide out that was a double slide out. You could do anything. And consumers loved it. And they would buy it, and it was wonderful. But what happened was, as they looked at it, the leadership at one point said, it's really kind of hard to sell these things. Our dealers complain because everyone's different and they're so hard to order. And our manufacturing team, think about this, Harlan, the manufacturing team's pulling their hair out because each one of these units is different than the last one. We've got to retool. You know what? Let's do what our competition does. Let's build maybe 5 types of units, and that's it. Just choose one of 5. So they did that. And the first few months was an amazing, absolutely amazing success story. They had good sales and they were making so much profit. And then all of a sudden, the bottom fell out. Sales went down. They had no profits anymore because there were no sales. And they were looking at each other, and the dealers were again complaining, saying nobody wants your units because now they're just like your competitor units. And these competitors are better about building mass quantity units than you are. You weren't built for that. You're built to do them one at a time. So this Amish company brilliantly pivoted and said, okay, our fault. We're wrong. We're going back to the old days. And within months, they went back and they did one thing different that I really think is wonderful, but they were right back in business again, getting sales, having customers rave over the fact that they have 3 couches in that unit and they have 2 different size slide outs. But they did one thing that I give them so much credit for in addition to that. They raised their prices. Because you know what? It was a pain to do all that work. And this is the best part of the story. Previously, they were too humble. You know, we don't want to charge too much. Our competition charges the same. And, you know, I don't want anyone to hate us. I don't want them to think we're gouging them. Well, now they went, hey, you know what? The competition's charging a certain amount. We're doing a lot more work. And for those customers who really value it, they'll pay more because it's costing us more. So they made more money.
Yeah, that just makes perfect sense. But what you just said right there, I think is very, very important and happens all the time. And that is we undervalue ourselves or we undervalue our product when we are giving that extra service, when we're doing the things that differentiate ourselves from others. We still feel like, well, people aren't going to pay for that. Well, that's wrong. They will. Especially in today's world, my gosh, if you've got good customer service, man, people will pay just to have you just so they don't have to talk to someone who don't care.
Yeah, I've worked with some multi-billion-dollar companies, and their procurement group will talk to me from time to time and will try to literally negotiate me over a $20,000 difference on a multi-million-dollar initiative. And it's comical. They don't know losing 20,000 here or there. That's a rounding error to them for a day. That's a day's rounding error. They don't care. So all I do in those cases is I devalue what I do. But what also I'll share with the audience is when you don't stand up for your pricing, and I like to do it respectfully. I don't want to be brash, but you got to stand up. If you do not do that, you demoralize your people because you let them know, you know what? I don't believe. I'm just in it for money. So who cares? We're going to lower our price. There you go. So you got to stand up for it. I don't think you have to be brash. But when you have some distinctiveness, you've got to realize that there's a value to it. There is value to being unique, distinct, and you should ask for reasonable value from it back.
So let's talk about someone who is the same as everyone else. Okay. And I'll make it real easy. Like in my world as an insurance broker, insurance advisor, somebody can call themselves an insurance agent. A lot of times people do everything the same thing, right? I talk to this company. They want insurance. I sell XYZ insurance company or, whatever, ABC insurance company. I have these 3 companies that I'll sell to you. And that's very common that we have that. So when someone decides that they're going to do something different, that can be very difficult, right? That can be very difficult, first of all, because you're kind of going against the grain. What advice do you have to someone to help them understand that making that change, not just financially, but in some cases morally, can be a good thing.
I think what you're talking about here, which is a wonderful topic in your business, and maybe many of the folks in the audience, is what is your customer experience? What is the experience you offer your customers? So if you offer 3 plans that all your competitors offer, you could say, well, I'm the same as everyone else. Okay, but what is the experience you're offering? And I mean far more beyond, hey, he's a nice guy. Do you have prompt response? Do you do competitive research on those various offerings that you're about to give to your customers? Do you negotiate on behalf of those customers? Do you proactively bring new ideas and opportunities to your customers? Now, all of a sudden, if you're doing these things, this is the Harlan Pickett process and experience. We do these 3 things. Nobody else does them. Now, we also offer blank and blank, which a lot of people do. But where we are different is we offer blank, blank, and blank that nobody else offers. If that's interesting to you, if that's of value, let's talk. And that's what's so important. One thing I want to share with the audience that we've learned, the customer experience, whether you're selling insurance, whether you're selling cars, as an example, your customer experience is your brand in the eyes and hearts of your customer. Here's an example. Let's say you want to go buy a brand new car. You saw a commercial on TV and you go, gosh, this is the greatest looking car on earth. I love it. I can't wait. So you go to the dealership. They treat you terribly. They don't pay attention to you. They have no interest in selling to you, and you just walk out. Now, most of us, and I would be like this, had I not understood this as a professional, most of us would say, okay, I hate that brand. I will never buy that brand again. I will never buy that brand again. All right, well, the person who's the CEO, probably across the Atlantic in Germany or some country, who is responsible for building that car, has no idea of the experience you just received. But you will never buy that person's car. Well, it's because that dealer, in that case, it could be a salesperson, it could be a customer service rep for any other company. That dealer presented a bad experience, and you have connected that to that product. So we have to realize our brand experience in the eyes of the consumer is our brand itself. Even if you have the greatest brands, even if you have the best car, if you have the worst experience, people are going to go, I hate that car. You know, and that's how we are. That's how we are. We don't distinguish. And honestly, we shouldn't, because that brand should be training and celebrating what they're unique about with those dealers to make sure that they present the brand in the proper way.
But that's all, especially in the car industry, that's almost unheard of. In some of the more traditional folks, right? You know, the ones that have been around for a long time, that's almost unheard of that they try to set themselves apart by any other way. We're the best selling this, or we have the best one of these, something along those lines, but nothing that dealing with us is a superior experience. You know, I remember the first time I ever heard of, when you come to the dealer, the price that's listed is the price that you'll pay. And that was Saturn, which was, of course, was a GM product. And this was years and years ago. They're like, there's no handling. You come in, if you like the price, you like the car, then you get to buy it for that price. There's nothing else. I mean, it was very, very unheard of at that point in time that someone would offer that. But it was a unique experience because that's one of the things people did not like. Many people didn't like. Some people thrive on that, right? They're like, yeah, baby, I'm going in there. I'm going to beat them down till I finally, or I'm going to walk away, because they have no problem with that. But there's a number of people that are not confrontational and don't want to haggle, and they just want to go in and say, yes, I like this vehicle and I'm willing to pay this price. Can you write that up for me? Like shopping at a grocery store, right?
Right.
Well, price.
You think about that with Saturn. That's how you buy most cars today if you go online. most cars today, if it's an EV especially, you're paying one price.
Yep.
And what that then does is it changes the experience from being, okay, now I'm going to go in and I got to arm myself with negotiating skills, to I go in and perhaps that individual, since he or she doesn't need to haggle with you and doesn't need to contend to go nose to nose on dealing, perhaps that person, if they're trained well, can explain what the product's about and can explain how they'll take care of you. You know, if you have, I'll just stay on the topic of car dealers. If you have 800 car dealers in your system, if you're a manufacturer, you have 800 car dealers, and you have 3 salespeople per dealership on average, which is very low. I'm going light on it. That's 2,400 salespeople. If you have no guideline for your experience that you want to be delivered to your customers, you have potentially 2,400 experiences being delivered on a daily basis.
Yeah. But that, so let's talk about that for a second, because it also allows, if that's the case, and you're from the mothership in this case, the mothership of the thing, they're not putting down certain guidelines. What it also allows is for one of those other little ships, in this case, in a dealership, to be innovative, to become, how does that one become number one? Well, once again, by differentiating themselves. We have a dealership here from one of the big, the big ones. This one's actually a Lincoln dealership that is always at the very top in sales. One of the things that I believe helps them is their customer service side. You don't just go in and test drive a car. They'll let you take it overnight so that you can drive it. Okay? You don't just get your maintenance done. They come and pick your vehicle up for you and take it in for maintenance and return it to you. Okay? The whole experience, you don't sit there with they do have whatever the price is listed as the price. There's no haggling. There is a very unique way that they, by the way, I have a vehicle from there, but that's not, it's our last 2 we haven't purchased from there. But the experience we still use to try to drive some vehicles, but it's just a different experience. It's very unique, and we have went to other dealerships that were with Lincoln and asked for that type of service. They're like, no, we don't do that. We don't do that. Who does that?
Right. Well, what you said is very interesting. They sell exactly the same cars. And one goes, I'm not going to mess with that. And the other one goes, I embrace it. Let's do it. I'm going to have 1 or 2 extra people. I'm going to pay a little extra money, and I'm also not going to haggle.
Yeah.
The concept behind that company that is really delivering quite an experience is they believe that the customer loyalty will be well worth it in the long run, because it will cost you extra sometimes to deliver a great experience. Other times, it just means be nice. It means be friendly. It means be honest, which costs nothing. But what you're saying, Harlan, is right. It's being thoughtful. It's instead of just saying, hey, we sell stuff. You go, well, how do you sell it? Yeah, we just sell stuff. Instead of that, say, look, this is how we do it. So that dealership, great example, has an experience that is an unique differentiator. That is one of their differentiations, and they market it. Now, here's a great point to the audience. Had they told nobody about it, they would just be relying on word of mouth, and maybe you would have heard about it or not. But if they promote it, and if it's a such and such experience that you get only here at so-and-so Lincoln, hats off to those people. They're doing something right.
Yeah, it's interesting as well. As you visit other dealerships, or as I've networked with people and met them at different places, and you talk about that particular dealership, it appears that they have a very good culture as well, because people are like, man, yeah, I'd love to work there. But they just don't have the same turnover that a lot of other dealerships do. You're like, okay, so there's a lot of management stuff. There's a lot of things going on here that sets them apart, because if they don't have the same turnover that other car dealerships do, which car dealerships typically have a lot of turnover, especially in the sales force, that means that they're doing probably the proper training, and therefore that their sales guys and gals are being successful. They have a culture people don't want to leave and go work somewhere else, especially if they've been somewhere else and now they're like, wow, this place kind of rocks. And so there's a lot going on there from really, it's got to be from the top down, not from Lincoln itself, but from the folks that own this dealership, this franchise, the way that they treat their folks and the way that they have structured everything. The differentiation of that bubbles all the way down to the consumer themselves, but it's all in there. It's like what you talked about earlier. You get your employees to buy in, right? They'll tell you right now, there is no better place to work and there's no better place to buy a car. This is where you want to do.
Well, think about it. They're being very smart. They're doing what we talked about. You identify or discover that differentiation. You celebrate it with your employees so they get it. Well, guess what? You're not only retaining employees, but they're telling their friends, hey, you got to come here. This is great. And if you think about it from the salesperson standpoint, the salesperson that wants to haggle and wants to go nose to nose will not go to that dealership to work. Yeah. So he or she says, okay, I'm out of this one. I'm not even applying. But the really nice person who maybe doesn't want to get into some kind of conflict with every customer, but loves to represent a brand and a company that he or she is proud of, they're thinking, you know what, this is great. And if I tell the customer we'll take care of them, this place actually lives up to that. That gives me a significance. It means that I can actually help customers and know it's going to happen. So it's a very smart move. And I'm sure that this company, when they're interviewing people, say, look, this is what you're coming into. This is the kind of integrity that you will find at our dealership.
So let's switch gears a little bit, kind of. And there's little doubt. I'm sure you have heard it. I know I hear it all the time across almost every industry, how frustrated people are getting poor customer service these days. It just seems to be an epidemic as far as the people just can't get a handle on it. And so many big companies, little companies, it doesn't make any difference. Customer service has really suffered. Is it a fair statement to say if you have good customer service these days, that is a differentiator that you can accentuate?
I think it is. And it is rare to have good customer service. And when you receive it as a consumer, you go, my gosh, this was actually pleasant, instead of, oh my gosh, I'm going through this time and time and time again. And if you look at Amazon, what they've done, and they do this virtually, so you never talk to a human. What they've done is they have turned their customer service into something that is very pleasant. You know, in the old days, if you bought something and you didn't like it, you had to go travel back to the store. And then sometimes you had to get into a discussion and plead for them to take it back.
Right.
And what Amazon has done in their case, which is a digital version of it, a virtual version as opposed to in person, is they have made it so easy and so pleasant to reject a product that you go, hey, this makes it kind of easy, and I'll order more from them. So one of your differentiators, if you offer great customer service, is that we train our customer service reps. Another thing I'll throw in at you, Harlan, is what level of decision making do you allow them? So, for example, if a customer service rep's on the phone and you go, boy, I wish blah, blah, blah. If they have to say, well, I'll have to send you over to my supervisor, and you go to 3 supervisors on this, it's irritating.
Yes.
But if that customer service rep is enabled in most of the situations to make a decision, she or he could say, well, you know what, Mr. Pickett, I'll tell you what, we can do blank and blank, and we'll accept that return from you, and we'll send you a brand new product tomorrow. Is that good? And you go, yeah, that's great. And you go, wow. So that's one thing we have to think about. If we do not allow our customer service representatives to truly represent customer service, then we're going to be in trouble. We have to give them some room to make a decision.
No, I think that's extremely valid. The empowerment of the folks that you're putting in that position, if they feel like they can't do anything, why would they be incentivized to provide good service, right? I was reading an article the other day where a particular company, I'm not going to mention any names here, a particular company, they told their folks, we do not want anyone talking to a supervisor. Your job is to keep them from talking to a supervisor. That's it. You can't give them what they want. First of all, you can't. Okay. You're not authorized to do that, but your primary function is to keep them from even asking to talk to a supervisor. Even if that means going round and round and round. And if they ask for a supervisor, you try to dissuade them from doing that. I thought that, I'm like, what a crazy deal. What a crazy, crazy deal. And they were talking to someone who had worked for that company. Said, absolutely, that is exactly what our job was, is to not really help you, but to keep you from getting help.
Well, that's a disaster. About 15 years ago, I was working with a company. It was a HVAC, heating and air conditioning systems company. And they asked us to come in, and I was talking with their customer service vice president, and was a wonderful guy. And he said, I'm really frustrated and I'm embarrassed. And I said, why? He said, well, we have thousands of customers, and when there is a complaint that comes in, it goes to a voicemail. And I said, okay. He said, so we don't have a person that's answering. I said, okay, that's bad. He said, okay, it gets worse. I said, how's it get worse? He said, well, we wait every 2 weeks and we empty out our voicemail and we transcribe it and send it to the dealers across the nation so that they deal with it. He said, so what it means is somebody could wait 2 weeks before the transcription was sent to a dealer, and then the dealer has to go reach out to the customer. Now, if you think about an HVAC unit that's not working for 2 weeks is really disastrous in some situations. But here's where it really blew up in the face of that company, and it's what you're describing. Not only was the customer angry, the dealer was angry.
Yeah.
They were angry at the manufacturer because the manufacturer put them in a terrible position. And I said, why do you guys do this? And the customer service VP said, I disagree with this, but I'll tell you why. He said, it's because we feel we make the unit and it's up to the dealers to service. And I said, well, you're going to lose millions of dollars doing this. And they did. They lost market share. They had a great product that I would have bought, except I thought, I'm not going to have anything to do with a company like this. So we have to realize you can be very, very efficient and not very effective when it comes to customer experience. And again, like we just said, if your customer service rep does not provide customer service, then there's an explosion about to happen.
Well, and it's interesting because you think about what this particular situation is. They actually didn't even have a customer service department per se. They had they had a voicemail that then they got that and they sent it off. So there was what he's telling us, there was no one to talk to, period, at the manufacturer. There was no one. And I think especially with small businesses, that happens. You don't even designate someone to handle customer service. If you have this smaller company, the wrong person could answer the phone that may not be able to help in this particular case. Maybe you've got an operations person that's trying to answer a sales question, and they're not even the right person to be answering that. And that can be frustrating for the consumer as well, because like, well, I mean, I did business with you guys because you're a small family owned, and I'm speaking from experience from us. You're a small family owned business. You would think that all of you would know. Well, you would think we would all know, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we all know, right? We all have these special things that we are able to accomplish as a family member. We all bring certain strengths to the table. If you asked my wife to be the host of a podcast, she would not be able to do it. If you asked me to keep track of my calendar without a calendar, I cannot do it. we have she's very structured in the way she does stuff. As I'm sure many of you that may know me, I'm like, whee, here we go, kind of guy. So it can be frustrating from a consumer, no matter what size the company is, to not get the answer and be moved around. So no matter what size you are, you probably need to take a little extra effort to make sure everyone's on the same page and can answer the questions.
That's really well said. I could not improve on it. It's our brand. Remember, we said this a couple minutes ago. You have lousy customer experience, you have a lousy brand.
Yeah. I mean, it is, right? It doesn't make any difference what the reality is. That's the reality, because their perception of you is the reality.
Absolutely right. And that's what we have to realize. We have to discover what makes us unique, celebrate it, and then realize that the experience we provide, which will be directly from those people we celebrated with, who should have significance and understand what their purpose is, that experience is the lifeblood of our future. It's what we're all about. And if it's good or better, we're probably going to do great.
All right. So I have another question. I've got to do this because this is the way I roll. Rock and roll musician to entrepreneur to doing what you do now. How did that transition? And then talk a little bit about the rock and roll musician thing, and then how the transition happened to begin with.
Well, I started out in music when I was pretty young, but I was playing an instrument that was not a cool instrument. It was a clarinet. So I learned how to play drums because I wanted to play rock and roll. I loved the Beatles. I'm that old. I loved the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. And so I taught myself drums. Then I wanted to write songs. I wanted to do something creative. My dad taught me 3 different types of chords on an organ, and I learned how to do that, and I started to write songs, and I still have some tapes of them, and they were not very good, but, they're okay for a kid that was 12, 13, 14 years old. I started the band with my brother, 2-man band. He was on guitar. I was on, and this, I'm telling you, this would have sounded horrible, but he was on guitar singing. I was singing, playing drums, and with my right hand, sometimes playing the organ. At the same time, I was playing drums, which is bizarre. I got really, really excited about music and creating and recording, and it led me to becoming the leader of a number of rock bands, and some of them were pretty successful. One backed up John Mellencamp. Another was on MTV and had some videos on VH1, and we had a song on the charts. So it was good, but we did not make a living off of it. And then one day my father became very ill and eventually passed away. So the turning point to me was, I thought, I want to do something in my life that I think is, fair, something that's fair. Being in rock music's not really a fair pursuit. Somebody likes you or not just because they like your band or not. So I thought, I'm going to go into business. And I started my business. And over the years, I've run that business like it's a rock band. So I look at the talents of the people in there. I don't look at people as trying to play every instrument or every role. I go, hey, you're really great at this. Why don't you do that? That kind of thing. And I look for magic in people and magic in ideas. And it grew and grew and grew to the point where one of my clients offered me their marketing department. And what that really meant was they said, hey, buy the equipment that we have in our marketing department, and we will give you and your business, your company, all of our marketing for the next 3 years. So as an entrepreneur, I thought about it, and I said, nah, I don't want to do it. I'm not going to run a marketing department. So after 1 year of them pursuing me back and forth, after I gave them names of other companies, I said, why are you calling me on this? Why don't you just work with one of these other companies? And the boss over there said, because we trust you. And it really hit me. So I said, okay, I'll take on all your marketing. And that moment, Arlen, I didn't realize this. That moment I made the biggest decision in my business career, because I became a full service advertising agency. And I had not been. I had just been doing some small work. The other thing I did not realize is that since all of my clientele up to that point were advertising agencies, I then immediately became a competitor of all my clients. And all of my former clients said, hey, we're not going to work with you. So I lost all my clients. So it was
what a deal.
it was quite a deal, but it turned into something great. And we were able to then grow and work with wonderful companies like Disney and Goodyear and Harley Davidson and Macallan Scotch, all these wonderful companies and small companies too, that are just as good. I mean, just as great. So that's what's happened. I learned one thing. I thought I was a musician and that if I did not play music, I was really, selling my soul. And it turns out that's not the truth. I learned that it wasn't music that was my true love. It was creativity. I wanted to be creative. So I could write songs, sure, but I wanted to write new campaigns. I wanted to create websites. I wanted to create things, books. I wanted to create books. I wanted to do things that had not been done before. So that's what my passion is about. I want to create. I want to create something that has not been in existence before.
Very, very cool. Very, very cool. I love that story because you didn't go where you, like so many of us, you didn't end up where you thought you were going to.
Right.
You took your childhood dream. And while you did certainly have some accomplishments with that childhood dream, there was a point where you just wanted more and it didn't even apply to that. But I think the greatest thing is all of a sudden you lost all your current clients because you became a competitor. Unwillingly, to a certain degree, you became a competitor, which is very interesting.
And I'd love to tell everybody it was part of my plan and I calculated the risks. I didn't. It did not occur to me. So again, another slap in the face of me being an entrepreneur, but it's the truth, and turned out great.
But, I think there's so many times as entrepreneurs, we have a plan and things just don't go. Sometimes in a positive way, sometimes in a negative way. But there are certain times that your plan as an entrepreneur don't go as planned, but things still turn out wonderfully. I've said multiple times on this podcast, failure is just another, it can be another win. It can be another win because you learned a way not to do it.
Well, that too, and I'll share one music-related thing, and that is, I'd like everybody in the audience, think of your favorite song. Think of your band, but think of your favorite song. Just think of one. All right? I would bet you money that song was created by a mistake, and here's what I mean. Somebody is on the guitar or the keyboard, and they're playing the fret on the guitar, or they're on the keyboard itself, and they move their fingers to a weird position that's not normal, and they stop and they go, ooh, that sounds interesting. And they go, okay, let me try that again. And their fingers go there again. They make sure they can do it again. They go, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Well, that actually, Harlan, was a mistake. The fingers moved to a place that they were not supposed to go. That was an error. However, it was identified as something unique, something special. And what happens at that point in songwriting is your biggest fear is, I don't want to lose that thing. What is that? How do I do that? Okay, I got to do that each time. So most songs have that in there. Some songs don't have it musically, they have it lyrically. It's a turn of a phrase that somebody does accidentally and they go, oh, I like that. That's what I ought to do. So I look at mistakes and errors in day-to-day life as opportunities. And sometimes they're just dumb and stupid. You get rid of them, okay. But they have potential. Sometimes somebody says something at a meeting and they screw the words up and people laugh. And I'm going, well, wait a minute. There's something brilliant in that. That's amazing. And you go, really? So we have to look at that. So mistakes can sometimes turn into hit songs.
That's interesting. Yeah, it really is. I think, if you saying all that stuff, and especially like that phrase in a meeting or whatever, it's reminds me of that old term, out of the mouth of babes, right? Because sometimes things that are said that someone has no context and really no understanding of what they're saying can be very meaningful when put in a different context, or strike an idea that makes you think a different way.
Yeah, I grew up loving the Beatles, as I mentioned, and one of their songs was born out of a mistake that their drummer said. And so they were talking to Ringo, the drummer, and they said, "Hey, how are you doing?" And he said, "Oh, it's been a hard day's night." And they said, "We're going to turn that into a song." I mean, that wasn't a normal phrase.
No,
It's been a hard day's night. What the heck does that mean?
What does it even mean? Exactly.
Right.
Well, I'm not going to keep you much longer, but I've got to know one more thing, because we talked about how important it is that whenever you have this differentiation, whatever that looks like, that you really start with your core of your employees, with your family, with whoever that is that you're big supporters. But in many cases, whoever the company is, whether you're little or big, you have some type of distribution network. You have someone that's selling your product other than yourself. Maybe both. Maybe you're selling your product and you have people out there selling your product. Whatever that looks like. But how do you motivate them? How do you get those folks to buy in the way that your core has bought in?
You have them buy in because you're going to ask them for more than what anyone else has asked for in the past, and you get their attention. What we did with a very major manufacturer that had hundreds of dealers was we said, we're going to train your dealers on your new product and your brand. And the dealer said, or the manufacturer said, "Oh, that's great. We have a lot of dealers out there." And we said, well, we're going to require that each salesperson from the dealerships that attend the training first take lessons or testing, let's say, on the products online, meaning that they would have to take training modules, and have to pass, not just take them, you got to pass these 10 modules before you're allowed to go to the training event. And our client said, well, we're going to lose a lot of people because I think a lot of these people don't want to have to go through that. And we said, well, that will save you money on, expenses and feeding them and everything else. They need to understand that you are serious and yet you've put together this training program and you expect them to go through it and be certified. Client also said, well, you mean just the new people? And we said, no, everybody. And they said, well, you're going to anger a lot of the old guys because they're used to this stuff and they don't feel they need it. And I said, if they're that smart and they know the product that well, they can pass these tests very quickly and easily. So we did that. And what happened was some of the old guys said, hey, I'm not doing it. And we said, no problem. You're not invited to the big event, but that's fine. That's up to you. What happened was the vast majority of the people took the certification, learned all these things, and then we had this big event for all of the dealers and distributors. Yes, we celebrated, but then we were able to really dig deeper to help them become even more advanced in how they presented the product, because after all, everybody was on the same page. So that's how you do it. You ask for more, but you got to deliver. Yeah. You don't ask for less. You don't say, hey, we're just happy you sell our stuff and we don't want you angry at us. No, we go, hey, this is great stuff. We put a lot of work into this. You need to be certified on this because we're going to go super deep when you go to the next level of this training.
And that's very, very insightful. I have seen so many times when a new company in particular has rolled out in the insurance world, benefits world, a new product, but not taking those steps. And, one of the things that you see in any kind of sales thing is you have a small percentage of all the people that can sell it that do sell it. Whether people say it's the 90-10 rule or the 95-5 rule or the 98-2 rule, whatever it is, you only have a small, but most of the time it's because all you have to do is just say you want to sell it and we'll let you sell it. They don't make you go through all of those different things. They don't ask for more, like you're saying. So I think that's a great, great piece of advice, Barry.
Yeah, I don't go along with the fog the mirror approach to distribution and dealers, which is if they can fog a mirror, they can sell our product. one real brief story. We worked with Audi of America, so the Audi company that sells cars here. They're phenomenal cars, and our client leader, very brilliant guy, and this was way back in the 1990s when Audi was not a very popular car. It was very low selling. And he said, you know what? Instead of having Audi as one of the 5 or 6 brands at a dealership that a salesperson can sell, why don't we just work with one salesperson at that dealership? Just have one Audi brand specialist. His boss thought he was insane. We said, hey, let's go for it. We trained one salesperson per dealership. So there were 5 others that could sell Audi if they felt like it, but they didn't. They didn't want to. This one salesperson was steeped in it and loved it. And we doubled their sales with just the one person because you now had one person who cared instead of 7 people who didn't.
Yeah, bought in. This person was bought in. And they were special. Right? Think about that. They were special. I get to sell Audi.
That's right.
I don't have to. It's not an option. I get to. I'm special. Big differentiator right there.
That's right.
So talk a little bit, before I let you go here, talk a little bit about what people can expect. I'm sure some of the things we've covered today with your new book. So you have a book. It can be pre-ordered right now. Folks can go out to your website. We'll share that in just a moment. But you can go out and pre-order The Power of Differentiation. So talk a little bit about what folks are going to get from that book.
What folks will get from The Power of Differentiation is a collection of true stories about how leaders engaged and inspired their organizations around the few things, could be 2 or 3 things that made them unique, and succeeded, and in some cases actually made history. So the book shares dozens of stories. I shared a few today. In addition to that, it gives you a guide on how you can attempt it yourself within your company, as well as how you can look at various areas of communication and marketing that will help you differentiate what you do, so that even if it's not earth-shattering, you can be able to position your brand and your offering in just enough of a unique way to stand out. It doesn't mean it's 100% different from anyone else, but that there's meaning to it. That's what it's all about. It's a really positive book. There's a bunch of fun stories in it, a little bit of humor. It's not my life story, so it's far more interesting. It's really it's part handbook if you want to try to do it yourself, and it's part motivation to go do it. So that's what it's all about. It's really, I think it's a pretty easy read as well. It's 200 pages. It goes pretty quickly. And like I said, it's something that's very, very heartfelt. The tagline or the subtitle, which I've mentioned, is Win Hearts, Minds, and Market Share. And that's the order of how this works. You got to win the hearts of people. Then you got to get into their head and say, okay, it does make sense though. I know that you feel excited, but this really makes sense. This is good. And then guess what? You'll win the market share. So it's Win Hearts, Minds, and Market Share. The book is titled The Power of Differentiation.
Awesome. And folks can go out to your website, which is Barry LaBov, BarryLabov.com. That's BarryLabov.com. You can go down to, there's a tab for the book, then you can go down and pre-order that book. Do you know when it's going to be released?
It's released June 25th, and Simon & Schuster will have it distributed worldwide.
Awesome. And well, where can someone go to Amazon and buy it? Where will they be? Where will it be available? I'm sure it'll be available on your website as well, right?
It will be available on my website, but it will be on Amazon.
Okay, great. Also, coming up soon, you're going to start a podcast called Difference Talks. So talk a little bit about what your thought process on that and when you plan to kick that off.
we're kicking it off in conjunction with the June 25th book launch. So they're coming out right at the same time. Very exciting for our group. It's going to be an interview-based show, all focused on individuals, generally going to be executives. Some of them are doctors. A couple of them are PGA Tour pros. Okay. Some are famous authors. So there's some pretty wonderful people sharing how they differentiated and how they engaged the people around them to truly move mountains. It's a very exciting show, about 30 minutes apiece for each episode. So it's a pretty quick listen. It's all based on inspiration. It's all based on inspiring people. And, really, my hope is we are able to move the hearts and minds of 1 million people with this message. And we're already working with a healthcare company that has 16,000 people. So we're moving their hearts and minds. And I want to move the hearts and minds of 1 million people with this message.
Man, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of connections between our vision too, because, one of the things that I have told people over and over since I started Eagle Care is that I want to make a difference in access to healthcare for 1 million people. I want, whether they work with us or not, I want to make a difference in the industry, in the health care world, where at least 1 million people have a difference in a positive way, obviously, in the way that they access healthcare. So that's awesome that's a number that you chose too.
Yeah, it is. And that's one of your differentiators, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Who else that you compete with has that as their goal?
I don't know. I don't ask them. Maybe I should.
I'm going to bet they don't have that goal.
Well, I think most businesses, this is a point of contention sometimes with my family. Most businesses put profit over everything else, and we don't at all. We definitely are very much patient focused, and it's patient over profit every single time. And sometimes that does cause a little bit of a contention.
Well, my company's the same way. We're not looking to make an extra buck here or there. We're looking for making history for our clients, and we're behind the great brands and the great clients. We're the people behind them, the ones supporting them. And yeah, we'll make a fair profit, but it's not about money. It's about making a difference.
Yeah, about making a difference. You got it. Man, I have truly enjoyed this conversation. It was everything that I hoped it would be. For those of you listening, y'all wouldn't believe how many times this thing has been rescheduled for us to finally get to have this conversation, but we made it happen. Barry, thank you for being so flexible, finally allowing us to have this conversation, buddy.
Arlen, you're fantastic. I love your show, and please keep doing it. I think it's great. And like I said, I strapped in and I'll unbuckle right away.
All right, folks, don't forget to go out there, check out Barry's website. You can also connect with him on all the various different places. He's got Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or X, or whatever they call it these days. He's got some TikToks going on. He is all over the place. Don't forget to pre-order that book. And hey, I'll tell you what, if you've got a great story about something differentiation, I'm sure you can reach out to him, and maybe you'll even get to be a guest on his podcast, because that's always fun. Being a guest on a podcast is almost as fun as hosting one. All right, folks. Thank you so much, Barry. Any closing thoughts, buddy?
I just think what we have to realize is we do have differentiation. We just need to discover.
Just need to discover it. And yeah, don't forget, if you are looking for that for your company, Barry can certainly help with that as well. Set up a time to talk with them about what's going on. I know on his website, you can set up that 15-minute consult to see if you guys are a good fit to work with Barry. It obviously has to be a mutual situation, but if you are, the sky's the limit. Thanks again for being with us on the Health and Wealth Power Hour. We sure appreciate you being here. If you want to sign up to receive these in your inbox, go out to hwpowerhour.com or just keep on listening on your favorite podcast location. Also, remember that the last Tuesday of every single month, 11 a.m. Central Time, across LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook and Instagram now, and I think we even added Twitter. You can catch the latest episode of Why Does Healthcare Suck? That's right. Why Does Healthcare Suck? Our monthly dive into all the crazy things going on in the healthcare world and how to avoid some of the pitfalls. A lot of times we'll have folks on there that have been through those pitfalls or just plainly giving you advice how to get away from them to begin with. We don't just delve just into the health insurance world, but all across the different realms. Be sure to check us out. And then, of course, you can listen to me every Monday, 10 a.m. Central Time for the Kickstart. And that is, once again, live across all those platforms where we give you the latest news and trends across the healthcare and health insurance world so that you can stay abreast, especially if you're a broker or an advisor out there. You need to know what's going on in our industry to help your clients best navigate through all of the ups and downs and the different regulations that are thrown at us all the time. Once again, thank you for being with us on the Health and Wealth Power Hour. We'll catch you next time. We are out of here.